Studio Nicole. I am Nicole, and I am so glad that you're here. I have three different Cascade journal bases that I'm working with. Made the first one on camera as part of the paper, paint, and possibility workshop, and I had these other options sitting on my desk, and I just thought, why not keep tearing paper? It's so satisfying to just tear paper and create a couple of extra bases. So that's what I've done. And I have three options now. I think for the remainder of this process, I'm going to work primarily in this one. But it's always nice to have, options, and these will already be made, and I'll just put them in my stash. Or maybe as I'm working, I might decide to work into simultaneously so that I can experiment with like different color palettes or different, just kind of different, I don't know, different styles, different types of treatments and things. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Who knows? Who knows where my brain is going? This is a funny little outtake, right? I watched this video of like an art creator who was sharing outtakes from her videos. Like it was just like she was cutting together all of like the outtakes that she cut out of the published videos, and I thought, I can't do that because all of my outtakes stay in the video. Like, I don't bother to cut them out. So I have no outtakes. You guys are getting all of it. This is the real me. All right. In order to start creating the base, what I'm going to do is I am going to cover this up. Now, I'm going to use acrylic gesso. There are all different kinds of gesso that you can use, tons of different brands. I was looking to see if I had another one handy that I could grab, but I don't have anything within reach. But there are lots of different brands of this. It does not have to be this brand at all. Gesso is, it is essentially like a white. You can get other colored gesso. You can get like black gesso or clear gesso. There are other options. I'm going to be using a white gesso as a base. It kind of acts as like a primer on the page. It will help to cover the background, and it will add some like tooth is the term. It gives a little bit of texture to the page so that the paint and other things that you put down will stick better. Oftentimes, particularly if you're using something with like glossy paper, you'll find that some things just don't stick very well, right? Like your different kinds of paints and mediums won't stick as well. So gesso is a good first layer, and it does mute the background and helps you start from a more neutral position. So I am going to just use, I just have a brush. It's a pretty old messy one. I'm not using anything fancy. Gesso over time can kind of muck up your brushes, so don't use anything really, nice or fancy. I would encourage you to just use like a big brush instead of a small one, if you have one, just because you'll get better coverage, right? It'll cover a lot better and faster. You do not have to use gesso if you don't have gesso. I don't want you to feel like you have to go out and buy something. You could just use white paint, okay? If you just have plain white craft paint, all right? This is like the brand that you can get at Walmart, I think, Apple Barrel. I also have some Craft Smart white paint up there, which is, I think, the Michaels brand. Just plain white paint will also work, okay? So don't feel like you have to go out and buy gesso. If if you don't have any, you can keep going. It's okay. Just use white paint. I'm going to just slap this down, and I'm not worried about making a really smooth application because this is going to be a base coat anyway. And I'm going to put other things on top of this. So the idea really is just to push the text or the images into the background. So it isn't completely opaque, but it's better, right? Like it's definitely not as apparent what was in the background. Now, I am not exactly sure how I want to do this video because it is going to require a lot of page drying along the way. And nobody really wants to watch me gesso all these pages. So I'm probably going to just speed this up and do it all in like fast forward with maybe some music so that you don't have to watch or listen to me do this whole process. You can do this with a book on or a TV show or something in the background. What I would suggest is that you have either a hair dryer or a heat gun and use it to dry your paper at least a little bit in between flipping, because if you close this and move on to the next page, the pages absolutely, whoops, I knocked my stapler over with the cord to my heat gun. The pages absolutely will stick together. Okay, it will happen, and then they will peel apart. And look, you can even see I peeled some of the paper from this side onto this side. Okay, so that will happen if you do not dry them. So in order to do this step, you definitely need a way to dry your pages in between. You don't want to just stick them together because that will cause you problems later on. Okay. All right. Now, depending on how much of the background you can still see and how much you want to cover up, you can decide whether you want to do a second coat of gesso over all or part of the page. Okay. You do not have to. Don't feel like you have to. It's okay if you can see through the page a little bit. All right, now I can still see this was a formula page. It says value for happy parents. I mean, it's not showing up on camera quite as clear, but in real life, I can very clearly see what was underneath the gesso, and that's okay. I am not that worried about it. I'm going to just leave it as is, and I'm going to move on, okay? Now, one thing I will caution you about is when you are drying your paper, when you're adding gesso and drying it, you may have your pages curl up a little bit, okay? They might warp or curl, and that's fine. Again, I'm never going to tell you something is not fine. Honestly, I'm going to say whatever happens is the universe's way of telling you that's what was supposed to happen. So if you just have to decide if you want it to curl or if you want to take the time to flatten it out in between pages. And that's up to you. That is your call to make. Your gesso might be heavier also. You might have a more transparent version of the gesso and you might need to make some additional layers. Whatever you need to do. The idea is just that we are going to push most of this text into the background so that it's not as obvious on the page. And then we'll come back in once this is all covered up and dried, and we'll start coming in with some color. And we'll start adding some paint colors into the background and do some mark making. All right, I am going to dry this and I'm going to gesso the rest of it. I will speed things up so that you don't have to watch it in real time. I'll check back in with you in just a couple of minutes when it's all finished. All right, folks, it is 35 minutes later, and my Cascade journal has been gessoed. All of the pages have been covered to some degree. Some are more transparent than others. You can see clearly, though, that I haven't been super particular about making sure everything gets covered. We're going to put other paint and paper and collage and treatments and things over top of this, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I just didn't want whatever was in the background to distract me from what I wanted to go on the page. So gesso is a great way to kind of mute the background. I will say a couple of things. Just as you are doing this, you might find that your paper reacts differently to the gesso or to the heat. I'm going to see if I can show you up close. Hold on, let me see if I can adjust my light a little bit so that there's really some bright light and so that you can really see. I don't know if you can. Let me try a bigger page. I'm gonna turn the heat gun on for a second, and I'm gonna let you see what might happen to your pages. Okay. How about this one? You can kind of see the page kind of clearly on this one, right? All right, let's see. If you can bear the sound for a minute, bear with me. Can you see? Okay, can you see what just happened to my paper? It just crinkled right up and it folded up. The gesso and the paper together kind of crumpled. It might have bubbled up maybe. And now I've got lots of like wrinkles and texture on the page. So I actually don't mind that at all. I think that it just adds more texture, more dimension to the page, but be aware that that is something that might happen so that you don't, panic if it does and be that worried about it. Now, if you want your pages to be nice and smooth, then just make sure that you're keeping your heat gun, away from the page. Don't get real close. The closer you get and the hotter it gets, the more likely you'll be to wrinkle your pages. So just be aware of that. Now, again, I don't mind it. It kind of makes me happy. I just think I don't know, it's kind of interesting to watch. It's neat to look at, and it creates a kind of unexpected texture on the page that you can't really get in any other way. So I am probably going to call it right now for this part of the video. It'll be a short one because even though on my end it's been 48 minutes total, it'll probably only end up being about 15 minutes for you once I speed everything up. You can do this step or you can skip this step. If you want to skip it entirely and just cover with collage, you can do that too. You can just skip to the next step or follow along later on. If you don't have gesso and you'd rather use white paint, you can absolutely do that as well. That's another option. So just some choices that you have to make at this stage. The next video that I'll come in with, I'm going to start bringing in some of these mediums in these colors. And I'm going to start applying color to some of these pages in different ways using different treatments and different techniques. Again, because I want it to feel kind of cohesive. So I'm going to work on all of the pages all at the same time with my handy heat gun nearby so that I can dry the page and then move on to another page. And we'll have that video up. I'll have that video out for you probably in a few days. I don't know exactly what my timeline is. I'm trying to think of, I don't know exactly when this is going to post, so I don't know when to tell you when the next one will be out, but it'll be there shortly, eventually. In the meantime, let me know if you have any questions about this part of the process. Share some pictures and let me know how it's going. I would love to see what you are thinking of the process so far. I will tell you, when I was gessoing, I definitely think that I got super into it. And this first couple of strips is so tiny. I probably should have started a little bit wider. This is going to be interesting to fill. I always find these tiny little pages the hardest. Anyway, all right, folks, have a good night. I will see you in the next video. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.